What's up, everyone? My name is ZayNews, and this is episode 10 of the ZayNews Podcast, where we talk about all things hoops, whether it's the NBA, college basketball. We're currently in the thick of March Madness, more games to come today. There were some exciting games yesterday. Alabama shot the heck out of the ball versus BYU. It was an incredible performance. Or youth basketball, right? Things going on in youth sports. We got AAU basketball, high school basketball. Youth athletes not being recruited as heavily as they were in previous points in time. We're going to talk about it all. So if you like the content, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, ask questions, tell me you disagree with me, tell me you agree with me. Engage with the post because I want to make sure that I'm engaging with you guys and bringing topics about that everybody is interested in. So without further ado, want to get into episode 10 of the ZayNews Podcast? Let's go. And today, look no further than I want to start on a positive note, right? Let's start there. I want to start on a positive note. There's some negative stuff that's been going on in the NBA media, but let's just start with the the final push of the NBA season. Let's start there. Let's start with the final push of the NBA season. Teams that are playing really well, teams that are struggling a bit, who have regressed a bit heading into the playoffs, and what I think the playoffs are ultimately going to look like. So I think we got to tip our hats to teams like the Houston Rockets, who, since having a rough patch, have really ended their season strong. And I know people can point to their lack of a competitive schedule, just the way the schedule shook out. I think 10 of their last 11 games have been against teams that just weren't the greatest, right? Not all of them, right? They've played some competitive squads, but for the most part, they've played probably um, at least half of their games against teams under 500. You know what I'm saying? But that's not to say that they still are not playing an incredible brand of basketball. They've gotten Fred VanVleet back. They've gotten some of those guys who were injured back. And their team overall is just playing at a very high level. As we've known this whole season, they their identity is on the defensive end of the floor, and the Houston Rockets have definitely continued with that trend. And I think they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs, right? They're young, they're athletic, they're hungry, they have good vets in guys like Van Fleet, Dylan Brooks, even guys like Steven Adams off the bench, who has seen very high level basketball in his career. They have a very good roster makeup right now, and I like where they're at. You got a good mix of young and more veteran guys. Obviously, their one mark, if you will, their one question is going to be that their young guys just haven't been there yet. And it seems like that's the most common talking point when you're talking about teams like Houston, teams like OKC. But can I be honest with you guys? We need to start putting more respect on these teams' names because, for one, Houston, since we're talking about Houston specifically, at the 2 seed, what 7, 8, 9 seed is going to beat them? What team has shown consistent enough play at a high level to say that they're definitely going to be Houston? Because the Clippers are great, very good team. I think they have players who historically are better than anybody on Houston's roster. But when you're talking about the level of competitiveness that Houston is going to bring, that's going to be a tough series for Houston, right? Or excuse me, a tough series for the Clippers. You got a very switchable team, guys who can get up and guard. You got guys who can switch. So that's not to say that James Harden, Kawhi Leonard aren't still going to get theirs, but it's not going to be easy. And then you got to match their level of intensity if you really want to beat these guys. Same can be said for Minnesota. Same can be said for Sacramento, who I still think is in the play-in. Same can be said for any of these teams who are in the play-in, who are going to have to, win the play-in, a couple play-in games to face them. You know what I'm saying? I think Houston right now is good for at least one round in the playoffs, just from what we've seen, right? I think you gotta start giving respect to these younger teams because they compete their butts off, man, and they've competed their butts off all season, and they deserve that respect, right? This whole you got to prove it in the playoffs. Well, they got to have a chance to prove it in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? They just haven't had a chance yet. This is the first time that they've had a legitimate squad, and are going to be able to prove it in the playoffs, and I think they will. And piggybacking off of that point, talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder, they undoubtedly at this point in the season, from what we've seen from the Lakers coming off injuries, right? I'm a Lakers fan, but when you have to look at things as objectively as possible. And they were playing great. They had a great like 10 game stretch back in February. Had some injuries happen. We've had guys in and out of the lineup. Chemistry was always going to be an issue when you assemble a team this late into the season. I know we were high on them at that point, and I'll be honest, I was someone who was like, this is going to be a tough team to beat come playoff time, and I still think the Lakers are going to be a tough team to beat. Don't get me wrong, but there's no doubt in my mind that the Thunder should be the favorite coming out of the West this season. I think that's unquestionable at this point. I think they've shown the least amount of flaws in their team, the least amount of areas where you can attack them and take advantage of them. I think they have one of the most, if not the most consistent superstar in the NBA, especially when you're talking about from a scoring perspective. Seems like Shea can just wake up and score 30 and just walk into 30 pretty much every night. And not only that, people undervalue how good their roster is, right? They got a lot of, I get that they have a lot of young talent, but a lot of good, solid young talent who is really productive. Hardenstein is no joke. Chet is no joke. Um, Dort is no joke. Williams is a super potential, future superstar. You know what I'm saying? Like their team is. Then you got guys like Caruso off the bench. I mean, my goodness. You know what I'm saying? That team not only I think deserves to be the favorite coming out of the West, but I think they may even deserve to be the favorite to win the championship, right? Them versus Boston would be a very good series. And who has the best player in that series? I don't know, but based on just what we've seen this season, it may be Shea. You know what I'm saying? And I think Jalen Williams can be a wash with some of the guys that they have over there in Boston, like depending on the game, a Jalen Brown, um, Drew Holiday for sure. Porzingis, right? Like these guys, Chet can wash Porzingis in a series. You know what I'm saying? They match up well, right? They match up well. Both teams defend at a high level. Um, OKC though they're a little bit less reliant on that three ball to fall, right? But they have the players to match up and guard the 3 point line. So if we're talking about just like roster configuration and the way they match up really well with Boston. That's not to say it wouldn't be a competitive series and I couldn't see it going like 7 games. But just with how good Oklahoma City has played this season, how consistent that they have been, that matters, right? Nikola Jokic had an interesting quote maybe like 2 weeks ago, and he said he doesn't believe that you can just turn it on in the playoffs. And I agree with that, right? As a team, you can't just turn it off in the playoffs. Sure, there are players, right? LeBron has been a guy who it's felt like at times he can really turn it up, but LeBron is different than the rest of his team, right? And when you're talking about a roster 1 through 15, you can't just all of a sudden become a championship team. You have to show that, right? You have to show that throughout the course of a season. You have to show that you have resiliency. You have to show that you have variety in your play styles. You have to show that you can adjust. You have to show that you can play multiple ways. You have to show that you can make shots and you know handle adversity, etc. And OKC has done that, um, and I think they deserve to be the favorite for that. So, so I say all this to say, man, there's just so many good teams in the NBA right now, um, and they're just not being talked about. You know what I'm saying? We'd rather talk about. Um, we got some like prima donnas in the media who would rather talk about like their relationship status with LeBron James as opposed to what's actually happening in the league and just completely allowing points to go over their head. And this has been the topic of conversation this whole point. And this is a great segue because this is going to be my next topic of discussion. But like, what is going on with NBA media, specifically those guys over at ESPN on First Take? What is going on? Stephen A. Smith has been on a generational run of bad take after bad take after bad take. He has continued as LeBron has made comments about his and more widely NBA media's lack of ability to highlight the game, talk about the game specifically, and only be narrative driven, more valid throughout all of his bickering, all of his arguments, all of the points he's wanted to bring up. He's dug himself in this weird place. And I continue to tell people, you only can do this for so long before it becomes uncool, before it becomes unpopular, and before you start to damage relationships. And you are seeing it. You are seeing players talk about it. Draymond Green said, "Don't talk to me." You know what I'm saying? I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but he said, "Don't bring that shit around me." Essentially, you know what I'm saying? He said, "The stuff you did to LeBron was lame. I don't like the way you handled it." Uh, because LeBron did exactly what you said you would hope players to do, and that is to come up to you in person, acknowledge what you said, um, and tell you to your face in person, man to man, that he doesn't like what you said, and that's exactly what he did. And since then, what has happened? That generational Taylor Swift run that LeBron mentioned on the Pat McAfee show 2 days ago, right? That's what it's been, right? Like since this stuff is shaken out, Stephen A. Smith, and I mean this wholeheartedly, has not said anything of merit, and he's essentially missed the entire point of what this whole thing was about in all of his responses. It's been pretty incredible, especially from a guy who is so intelligent as Stephen A. Now, Stephen A. could just be playing the game, right? Who knows? He could just be um, trying to up views. Maybe First Take's views aren't doing so hot. So he's like, how can we squeeze every ounce of liquid out of this thing that we can? You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's what he's doing. He wants to squeeze every last bit of juice out of this, but it just seems so disingenuous, right? And I said this last week in my podcast. It just seems like so disingenuous and just not authentic. And then you got guys like Kendrick Perkins who are going to find a way just to have a bad take. Kendrick Perkins, I don't know how he survived that firing um, that firing spree that ESPN went on like a year or two ago. They fired all these amazing basketball analysts who talk about the game so well, so articulately, and Kendrick Perkins made it through that. What? He consistently has the worst takes in NBA media. Um, Worse than Stephen A. to be quite honest with you, like he is terrible at the whole talking sports thing. I don't know the last time I've listened to a segment of his, but like he just continues to miss the point. He continues to not see the game for what it is. He like you name it. If it's not good, he probably does it from a commentating perspective. And I mean, kudos to him for being at ESPN. He's probably there for a reason. They've probably looked at all the advanced analytics, and he probably definitely gets the eyeballs on him, and he's able to captivate certain audiences that really enjoy what he says. I'm sure that's what it is, right? I won't pretend to be smarter than the people over at ESPN who are making these decisions, and he's probably bringing in dollars. That's what would make sense. But I'll tell you what, man, when I just don't get it. So the reason I bring this up is to say, Stephen A. has the other day was talking about he just dug himself deeper into a hole, right? So let's start there. We all know what happened initially when LeBron confronted him on that nationally televised game at Boston a few weeks ago, and then Stephen A. has just had takes, and essentially what he's done is he's just continued to make things more personal. So much so, the other day he was talking about how LeBron wasn't at Kobe's memorial, which was wrong, right? He that pretty much got rebutted and disproven very quickly after. And there's been a number of those takes, right? There's been a number of those takes. Now he's going as far as to call LeBron fake. He's a phony. First of all, you guys don't know LeBron personally. None of these guys know LeBron personally. Stephen A. Kendrick Perkins was on his team. You do not have a good personal relationship with LeBron, right? You guys are not friends. You guys have been on the same roster. We got to stop confusing that with being like friends, right? These guys are adults outside of basketball. They have their own lives. None of these guys know LeBron personally. They know what they've heard. They know what they've talked to other people about, but by no means do they have this like amazing standing with LeBron where he's sharing personal and intimate details with them about his life and what's going on in his life. So we got to stop pretending like these guys should be the end all be all when it comes to attacking people's characters and talking about things personally. And it's just such a joke to me that this whole thing, right? And everybody who is sensible is like, you guys are narrative-driven media. You don't talk about the game. You don't analyze the game. You talk about people's personal lives, and you attack people personally. Only for Stephen A., only for Kendrick Perkins to dig themselves deeper into a hole and attack them more personally, right? You're talking about LeBron's not a genuine person because he wasn't at Kobe's memorial, but he was at Kobe's memorial. I don't even know why that would be a topic of discussion. And then he brings up the point that he wasn't at Dwayne Wade's retirement or Hall of Fame ceremony, completely missing the fact that his son 2 weeks prior to that had a cardiac arrest with, and I believe like there's like a 9 in 10 chance of cardiac arrest being a fatal event for a person. So you're talking about a dude's firstborn son going through cardiac arrest, not even bringing that to the limelight, only to drive home this narrative that he's a fake friend because he wasn't at Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame acceptance ceremony and he wasn't at Kobe's memorial. And just being wrong on both fronts, right? Dwayne Wade and LeBron have a great relationship, and I'm sure Dwayne Wade understood that if you're not at my thing, you probably have a good reason for it. And that good reason was because his son had almost, I don't want to put that into the stratosphere or into the world, but right? Like that's what it was. And that's extremely terrifying as a parent and as a man. I wouldn't have been nowhere else either, but in the hospital with my kid. So these guys are deluded. These guys are deluded. These guys are narcissists. These guys are very ego driven, it seems like. And it's just like, I think media is starting to forget their role in this whole thing. And that is to be um, an extension of what's happening. Not even an extension. What's the best way to put this? But the NBA media's job is to help enhance the game, right? And their jobs are only possible because the players. I guess in a roundabout way, that's what I'm getting at. Their jobs are possible because the players are there playing. You know what I'm saying? If there's no game, there's no media, right? And I think media has had a hard time recognizing that and maybe reconciling with that, because there's no way this is real life. There's absolutely no way the way that the media has acted, specifically Stephen A. and then KP had his bad take of his own, has been acting. And let me get into the specifics of the Kendrick Perkins take because I didn't even speak on it, articulately. So, in that same like segment, in that same part of the show a day or two ago, Kendrick Perkins alluded to, without alluding to, LeBron selecting a certain type of person for his Mind the Game podcast, right? He spoke about JJ Redick, and now, as we've all seen, Steve Nash is going to be the next person across from him for this season of Mind the Game. I'm not sure exactly how they're doing it, but you guys get the picture. And without even talking to Richard Jefferson, without even talking to Phil Handy and some of the other guys that he mentioned that LeBron has a relationship, he pretty much said, I think the undertone that I think a lot of us got from it is, why didn't you choose a black counterpart to host your show with you? And what an idiotic thing to say. For one, he has a show, The Shop, that is filled with African American men and women, minority men and women, who are all doing great things, and he's given a platform for a lot of people to speak on a lot of great things. Two, he has a school that directly impacts, directly helps, underprivileged minority kids, in his home state. Three, he's been a pillar of positivity, a pillar of a role model, you name it, in his career. I'm saying, for what African American and other minorities can aspire to be and do in this country. And that's the takeaway. And then not only that, because you don't talk to these people, you immediately get disproven and rebutted again. Richard Jefferson spoke on his own podcast and said LeBron has been on our show a number of times. He's helped build our show, get more eyeballs on us a number of times, right? And it's never been a problem to get him on the show. It's never been any sweat off our back. He has actually reached out to us and asked to be on our show to help us and to just talk with his boys. And that's what real relationships look like. And this is how you know Kendrick Perkins just be talking out the side of his neck. And this is how you know Stephen A. Smith just be talking out the side of his neck. Because these guys say these things, these inflammatory things, missing the entire point, and then no more than 5 minutes after it is released to the general public, it gets disproven. I hope Molly starts to cook these dudes. They need a more of a voice of reason, because what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I think, to be honest with you, and again, I'm being so truthful when I say this, Stephen A. Smith, maybe he's just had it in sports media, and he's ready for that political change. And you can see he's setting himself up for that. He's been setting himself up for that for maybe the past 3 or so years. I think it's time, because trust me when I tell you, this is only going to go so far. And the worse it gets, the worse it's going to get for him. I understand he just signed a good deal. I understand all the how much money he makes and stuff like that. But eventually that well is going to run dry. And I think sooner rather than later, make that switch to politics, man. It seems like that's where your interests are. It seems like that's where you are able to, um, collect your thoughts and come up with some well thought out points, because basketball just isn't it anymore, right? The idea that your ego is so big that you think LeBron would hate you because you think MJ is the GOAT. Dwayne Wade is on record saying MJ is his GOAT, and him and LeBron are still very close friends. How many other guys, Kyrie Irving, they have a decent relationship. Kobe's his GOAT. You go down the list, right? Like, I don't think LeBron is that ego driven that everybody who thinks MJ is the GOAT, he absolutely hates, right? You understand that MJ is a captivating, once in a lifetime athlete with a once in a lifetime aura, I guess, for lack of a better term. The idea that people care that much about Stephen A's opinion to hate you for it, get real, right? Look yourself in the mirror. You are not that guy, dude. You are not. You know what I'm saying? You are great at what you do. You're great at TV, talking, getting people interested in sports, the way that you maneuver through stuff, and you've had a lot of success. But you are not that guy, man. Not everything you say is law, and not everybody takes everything you say as law. And you need to get that through your head, to be honest with you, because it's just like it's like a bridge burning. You know what I'm saying? A building burning down, or whatever analogy you want to use. And it's just, as people who love the game, as someone who loves the game, respects the game, and wants to hear the game talked about in a positive light, and people covered correctly and fairly, it's just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? That's really what my takeaway is. What are we doing here? So that's my thoughts on those guys, man. Hopefully after this week we don't have to talk about none of this stuff anymore. We got the playoffs coming up. You got teams playing at an extremely high level. You know what I'm saying? I think, as I talked about last week, 3 teams, 60 wins. That's an impressive feat in the season. And I think it goes to show how competitive the NBA is right now and how many high-level teams there are in the NBA right now. So you got Boston. OKC hit it first. Cleveland is now at 60 plus wins. And Boston is on their way with the recent stretch that they've had of, I think they've won like 9 out of 10 or something like that. I think all these teams are going to win with 60 plus games. And I mean, the Lakers, oh my gosh, dude. I don't know if you guys saw the way that game versus the Bulls ended last night, but talk about some BS. I wanted to break my TV when I watched that. But it's like, who are you mad at? You can't be mad at the Bulls. The Bulls went in there and they did what they're supposed to do. They kicked our butt. You know what I'm saying? They absolutely, up by 18 in the fourth quarter, you let that lead go. I mean, this is what we're talking about, though. This is fair criticism. What was LeBron doing at the end of that game? He's the reason we lost. I know people like to say it's never just 1 or 2 possessions. It was him. It was LeBron. We were up by 5 with 12 seconds left. You win that game 99 out of 100 times. Maybe more. Maybe 999 out of 1,000. You don't lose that game. You know what I'm saying? LeBron has 2 boneheaded errors. Why are you closing out on Vucevic for a shooter in the corner when you have Austin Reeves right there? Terrible play. And then why are you being so careless on the inbounds pass? He knows that, right? Like he knows that. It's not like something he doesn't know. And then like to barely contest the shot at half court. If you know, like if all a lot of bad things have to happen to the Lakers in a row for them to lose that. And it goes to show that the basketball gods are real, meaning that if you don't treat the game right, the game is not going to treat you right. And that's exactly what happened last night. But my last point is that if you see that stuff happening in a row, you pick up Josh Giddey full court. Minimal seconds on the clock. You pick him up full court and you navigate him one way or the other to make that shot way tougher. If you give anybody in the NBA 5 chances running straight down the middle of the court to shoot a half court shot, all of them will make it once. It's not as tough of a shot as you think. It's a tough shot. It's a far shot. You're running. You got to shoot it. That is the most comfortable you can possibly be taking that shot. If you give me that, I might make that 3 out of 5 times sometimes. I'm not kidding you. Like if you get the running start, that's a shot. Who hasn't gone into the gym and shot a half court shot? When you shoot a half court shot, where do you shoot from? Directly in the middle of the floor. Absolutely terrible. So the fact that you have these mistakes, Austin Reeves saves us. He gets us up by 1. And then we just let Josh Giddey dribble where he would be most comfortable and shoot a half court shot, only for us to give some lazy contest. We wanted to lose that game. The morale, the effort given on that last play, we wanted to lose that game. Or we didn't want to win it. That's for sure. We didn't want to win it. As soon as we got some pushback by the Bulls and they started coming, attacking us, we folded like some cheap tents. And that is incredible. Someone said that's the worst, like, 15 seconds of LeBron's career in terms of the way he's played. You might be onto something, because that was absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. There's no excuse for it. And I bring this up to say, I was confident we were going to get to 50 wins. I'm not that confident right now. I think we should. I'm not confident. We're currently at 44-29. Our next 3 games, I think, are between Memphis, Houston, OKC. Gosh dang. Talk about, and then not only that, we play OKC twice in our last, I think, 9 games that we have. We play Houston again. So we play Houston twice. We play OKC twice. There are 2 teams that we play that we should beat. We play the Warriors again. The Warriors are going to need that win. The Warriors are going to come out to compete. My hope is that these teams start resting guys. Teams like OKC, teams like Houston, who have pretty much solidified their place in the rankings. My hope is that they start resting guys. But as we all know, teams very rarely rest guys when they're playing against the Lakers. So we got to win 6 out of our last 9 to get to 50. We should, but will we? We've dropped 2 to the Bulls. Both games we should win. That's a team that we should beat. We've lost to teams. Oh my goodness. Now the good news is like we're still going to be in the playoffs, right? Like even if we get to 47 wins, we should still be in the playoffs most likely. And regardless of who we play, that first round matchup is going to be tough at this point. Whether we drop to the 6th seed and we play Denver first round, whether we better not drop to the play-in, but if we found ourselves in the play-in and we got in, I think we would win the play-in rounds with the teams that are in there. And we wound up playing against, Houston first, best case scenario. These are all winnable matchups for us, but like we're just making it harder than what we have to. You know what I'm saying? And again, the basketball gods are real, and when you don't give the proper effort, time, and just effort to the game, the game knows, and the game you can't cheat the game. You know what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, like, we could just as easily be a conference finalist or a first round exit with the way we're playing right now. It's just, it is what it is. So um, we knew that there was going to be some lumps. We knew that there were going to be some lumps, but the hope was that, and injuries kind of impacted this too. So I want to be fair to the Lakers, but hopefully, we're able to string together some good games, some competitive games, some games where we're playing our brand of basketball, competing, playing good defense, and LeBron is able to find his rhythm offensively heading into the playoffs. So we can just go into the playoffs and put our best foot forward. But as of now, as of the last like week and a half of Lakers basketball, I would more so lean to be in a first round exit than being into the conference championship. And that's just real. But the nice thing is when you have Luka, when you have LeBron, and when you have Austin Reeves, three guys who can get a shot at on pretty much anybody and can be creative for others, then you're always going to be in series and in games. But when you also lack defensive consistency, games can also get away from you very quickly. And we've seen ourselves cough up some leads. I mean, should we have won against the Pacers if we're being honest? Like with the way we closed out that game, it's amazing to me how bad we've closed out games over the past couple weeks with the players that we have. Like LeBron and Luka historically have been able to control games, control possessions, and we're just not doing that at all. LeBron is my last point, and then I'll get off. But LeBron is our second best player. Outside of Luka, LeBron is our second best player. But what happens when you're an aging player and you get out of your rhythm, it takes a lot longer to get back into the flow of things than it would have when you were 29, 32, 34, any other time in his career. It just takes a lot more time to get back into that rhythm, right? Because you have lost a step and you got to, get back into that routine, get back into that rhythm that you had beforehand. So I fully suspect LeBron will get there. But right now, I think we need to be giving much more. Let Austin Reeves just carry more of the load. He's probably been our most consistent guy this season, right? And some of that is just attributed to LeBron getting injured at different points of the season. When LeBron played at his best, right? Like he's better than Austin Reeves still by a pretty large margin. But Austin Reeves has been consistent from pillar to post this entire season, and we know how productive he can be. Let him be that for us, right? Put the ball in his hands more and let him make plays for us. So especially while LeBron is trying to find his groove, right? And I think there needs to be a huge emphasis on putting the ball in his hands more. Hopefully Rui is back in the lineup too. We definitely want to integrate him back in and have him feeling good. He played good against the Pacers, but he's going to be a huge piece for us, especially as we get into these teams with good bigs and stuff like that. Like we need him on the court. So we'll see with the Lakers, man. But right now, they got some stuff that they got to work through, and they gotta. I don't know if teams have figured them out defensively. I don't want to say that because I think some of it's effort, some of it's defensive schemes need to adjust a little bit, but they just got to be better. But anyways, that's it for me, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. Again, if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know where you disagree, and we're gonna keep these podcast episodes dropping every week like we have been. So wish you guys the best. We'll talk soon.